And he used that as an example about how many women or how many people got on social media and praised the fact that he died. They was happy that he did, and then he said, and then they would turn around and they would cry and mourn like a rapper who glorifies killing, murdering, raping women, and selling drugs and all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they hate the stuff that'll get us right. You know what I'm saying? But they love the stuff that'll kill us.
So yeah, this is Dr. Umar and Cynthia G talking. They were asking, is there a war on black males? So I was just and they got into a discussion.
Okay.
It is not a competition. It should be a collaboration. But once again, some of us in the conversation are so filled with hatred for the opposite gender that we can never get around to talking about solutions. And in speaking of clips, Sister Tammy, there is one clip you might want to ask Sister Cynthia about, because it was sent to me by about 30 people several months ago, maybe even weeks, where she suggested that black women, should abort their black male fetuses because after birth they were not contributing.
I didn't know this music was gonna be
in the black community. Could you ask her to clarify her comment?
What?
What the fuck?
Oh, it's just the intro. Okay.
You're the only one not being honest, Umar. You're not being honest.
Find the clip.
All I ask. G, white supremacy, does it exist in your world? And has it affected black men?
Absolutely, it exists, and black men have worked in tandem with white supremacy since they've come in contact with it. And this is why I say
my first question.
I
want to pause that real quick. Right there, when she said that.
When it's regarding black men.
I just want to ask: Do you believe that black males work in tandem? But I guess what we should all define with her is what white racism, white supremacy is, but. From what she's saying, we work in tandem as black males.
So I was like, maybe I don't know what the definition of in tandem with.
In tandem, yeah, we probably had to ask her. So I was just wondering. So let's just let it keep playing it, so we can.
Right.
Dishonest discussions, especially when it's regarding black men, because we do have a black male worshiping culture. So what we do within that culture, and Umar Johnson is showing it today, is absolve black men from any accountability for what they've done. Number one, we wouldn't be in a system of white supremacy had it not been for black men. So if you want to go all the way back to history, then let's go back to history when black men were selling their own people into white supremacy. Let's go back into history when 16 years off the plantation, black men were worried about a war being waged on them. They were worried about getting access to white women. That's what you were worried about. And it's interesting. There's a reason why I feel like Umar focused mostly on me and Hope's attitudes, and it's because he can't accurately answer the question. He mentioned names, not accomplishments. And the reason being is because
I think he mentioned those names specifically because the accomplishments of those people don't have to be explained.
Right, but those accomplishments are also accomplishments that I've heard Umar Johnson speak negatively about, specifically the civil rights movement and how damaging it was to black people. But now he wants to sit here and say the very people who accomplished that were accomplishing something beneficial when, in his own opinion, that wasn't beneficial and did more harm to the community than good. So I think that because we're having such a dishonest discussion where black men don't want to take accountability for what they've done. They want to be the victims of society, but then they want submission from the women. The bottom line is I'm not willing to deflect from the fact that, number one, black men are the greatest non-white contributors to white supremacy. Let's just be real. White supremacy couldn't even exist without black men's compliance. They're always uplifting whiteness, biracial children, and trying to assimilate. And that's why I went back to the notion of the only time black men truly feel like there's a war against them is when they feel like they're being punished for something white men do. At the end of the day, y'all dropped the ball. You're blaming white supremacy on your failures. We already know there's oppression, but black women are double oppressed. We have more barriers to face. You have male privilege in a patriarchal system and you can't even get it right.
Well, Dr. Umar, I think we all know your stance on interracial marriages.
Absolutely.
So please acknowledge what the rest of what Cynthia G has said.
Absolutely. I'm not sure where Sister Cynthia took history class, but if you know anything about the transatlantic slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade was a European enterprise.
I'm talking about the sub-Saharan. I'm talking about the sub-Saharan slave trade. You should go look into it.
Excuse me.
Well, you address me.
May I finish?
Go look
See,
into the
I got an
sub-Saharan
issue with
slave
that
trade
right
where
there.
black men were trading their women and children for alcohol.
I mean, just right off the bat, I just got an issue with how Umar, Dr. Umar sat there and was just quiet, and he listened.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think they. Well, actually, I believe they were. She was keeping them, letting them talk. So I don't think she was letting them interrupt each other.
Right.
So I guess
she is really interrupting them though.
Yeah. Well, Umar is all. You know what? I've watched a few videos of Umar. He gets into some confrontational situations. So I think he's probably trained himself to, hold tight, which I'm trying to too, just to learn how to be quiet and just listen. Let
instead
people
of hearing.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because if he was starting to interrupt it, which I believe they might do, they just get confrontational and combative, right. And then they won't listen to each other. I don't believe.
Yeah, right.
May I finish?
Go ahead, Dr. Umar.
The transatlantic slave trade was a European enterprise. It was not an African enterprise. Although there were some chiefs who participated in it, by no means did they control the direction and extension of the transatlantic slave trade. So that's number one. Number two, black men resisted enslavement, not only on the shores of Africa, but right here in America. We celebrate Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey, Gabriel Prosser. There's literally hundreds of documented attempts by African men to liberate not only themselves, but their women and their children. So to act like we just sat there and were complicit in our own oppression is absolutely ridiculous. The other point I want to clarify for your information, Cynthia G, you never, ever heard me condemn the civil rights movement. The good Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is a hero of mine. And despite me being a Pan-African nationalist, I take issue with other black nationalists who do want to dismiss Dr. King's accomplishment. The civil rights movement was necessary because it removed a psychological scar that suggested of racial inferiority. So you've never heard me deride the civil rights movement. I support it, although I took some issues with it. The bottom line is, when black women, black girls, black boys listen to this conversation we're having today, they're going to be confused because they hear two brothers speaking of a greater context to the problems that affect black men, and you hear two intelligent, beautiful black women who want to keep scapegoating black men while ignoring the historical and contemporary systemic challenges that are constantly placed in our way. I'm going to say this and be quiet, Sister Tammy. I got to give you this. There was a recent piece of research, Tammy, that came out, and the research said a black man with a master's degree, they did a study. They had white males who had come out of prison.
To work on that audio off.
They had black men with master's degrees, Sister Tammy, apply for the jobs. And guess what? The white males with prison history and no education were called back more than 75% of the time than black men with no prison history and a master's degree.
I'm aware of that. I am aware of that survey.
Women want to do to liberate themselves of the community. They can't do it without the men. It is not a competition. It should be a collaboration. But once again, some of us in the conversation are so filled with hatred for the opposite gender that we can never get around to talking about solutions. And in speaking of clips, Sister Tammy, there is one clip you might want to ask Sister Cynthia about, because it was sent to me by about 30 people several months ago, maybe even weeks, where she suggested that women, black women, should abort their black male fetuses because after birth they would not contribute to anything worthwhile in the black community. Could you ask her to clarify her comments?
I would love to. I would love to too, but we don't have time.
Well, if anyone really wants to know about why selective breeding will be the best thing for our community, then they can come to my channel where I explain that, as I also talk about the dynamic between black men and black women, and black women's need to have standards, expectations, and boundaries when dealing, especially with Black men, but any man in general, and open up your options too. Put you first. Stop thinking about Black men.
Okay. And I'm gonna be thinking about my Black man, Cynthia, because homie is all of that and then some. So I'm thinking right now. As a matter of fact, this show is over because I'm about to go think up on something.
There you go. All right. Okay. All right.
Right. So, hey, so my first question is, man, do you think that Black males and Black females are engaging in a war against each other?
Yeah and no. You know what I'm saying? Because I guess it could go both ways. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it seems like it is.
It seems like it is too. You're right, man.
I was actually having this conversation. Well, not basically this conversation, but something similar to this with a friend of mine. Shout out Shanda Crenshaw, friend of mine, and I was going through the different, the races, like, you got the Hispanics, you got the Asians and all this stuff, and how there's so much of a tight knit group.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You don't hear a lot of bickering or back and forth or degrading each other. And I was like, I wonder if it has something to do because with us or African Americans, we were ripped from our home.
Right.
So we have no history. We have no heritage. We have no traditions.
But
compared to all these other races who have, you know what I'm saying? Like I had to do IT support for the Mexican, it's like a Mexican celebration last week. You know what I'm saying? These people didn't know each other. And the kids was involved.
Like a quinceañera? What is it? Quinceañera?
Something like, yeah. But the little kids, I'm talking about the little small kids and everything, dressed out in traditional, Mexican uniforms, the girls, you know what I'm saying? Tradition. I'm like, we ain't got nothing like that. So I wonder if that is like the missing part, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, my point of view is that I think, racism, white supremacy plays a big part in Black people's consciousness, right?
Right.
I think it's poison our minds to make us believe that we're enemies with each other.
Yeah.
When it's actually another bigger enemy that we should be focused on. But I think that's just the plan, right? It's a plan for us to, like, they have their opinion. Black people, like a guy named Neely Fuller said, they have a VGQ, Victims Guaranteed Qualification. Black people have the right to say what they want about racism, white supremacy. And I'm not qualified to criticize it, but I just think that we oftentimes point that hatred or all that at each other.
Right.
Instead of, like he was saying, like Dr. Umar was saying, we don't sit down and talk to each other and educate each other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I think if you come off saying that you dislike Black or anti-Black, you can probably make it far in the system of white supremacy. So that's why So most time you'll see most people who are anti-Black or don't want to see Black policies passed or anything like that. They often are the ones you see on TV.
Right.
So they'll put them out front. You know what I'm saying? You'll put that Black face, and they're Black, of course.
They Black, yeah.
And they put them out front, and so it's a privilege. I guess it's a privilege or a benefit to be anti-Black. So you might as well be against Black males and Black females. It might as well be against each other. I believe we are biggest
right.
enemies.
It's man. Like I said, we've been poisoned.
We've been poisoned. I believe our brains have been poisoned.
Right. And I wonder if we had like heritage and things like that, like the other races that sit down and talk and bond together, would we be so easily?
Yeah, I don't know. I think you know what I'm saying. I've been doing a little study about history. Like they were like before, I guess Islam or. I believe my personal opinion that Abrahamic faiths have something, beliefs, I don't like saying faith, have something to do with the trans-Sub-Saharan and transatlantic slave trade. But before that, in Africa, they had like 30 dynasties. They had kings and queens, which I'm not saying they lived right back then because they still had wars and they bickered. And that's probably the reason why we were bickering with each other so much. Then, I guess the Europeans or the Greeks or the Romans came in and took advantage of that. So, I don't know. Here's my thing. I don't know, even if we went back to those times when they say it was all these dynasties and kings, I don't think they live right either. So I don't even know what's the right way of living. Like, even if we got together as black, you know what I'm saying, as so-called black people, I don't even know how they would look. Because my thing is, we've been classified, like all those classifications of race come from a certain group of people and they classified us, right? They classified us as black, so I'm trying to figure out, unless we eliminate that, until we eliminate those classifications is my thing. Until we eliminate those, I don't think we'll ever be a people. As humans, I'm the human, because I don't think there should be anything called a race.
I think we as a people, I think we are past the point of no return.
Past the point of no return. I really do. I really hope not. I think.
I really do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I really do. I was looking at a guy on, I forget his name, is like, you know, pretty much like you're saying poison or whatever, because he used like 2 examples or whatever. Because he said that he was almost tricked into hating somebody like Kevin Samuels, who was like one of the people who sit down, you know, and just, you know, made people accountable, you know, for the decisions that they make or whatever. And then when he passed, and he used that as an example about how many women or how many people got on social media and praised the fact that he died. You know, they was happy that he did. And then he said, and then they would turn around and they would cry and mourn like a rapper who glorifies killing, murdering, raping women and selling drugs and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they hate the stuff that'll get us right. You know what I'm saying? But they love the stuff that'll kill us. You know what I'm saying? Basically.
Yeah, I think it's by design, right?
Right. I mean, white supremacy is working exactly.
It's by design, yeah.
Yeah, how it's supposed to be.
And I think a lot of our issues that we don't understand, this is my perspective, I don't think we understand what it is and how it affects our mind. And see, I believe it's a confusion by illusion, right?
Right.
White supremacy, racism confuses us. It shows us illusion that it's not there.
Right.
And so what happens is we pick fights with each other, not even understanding the situation we're in.
Right. I think Cynthia G is, I think she's well enveloped into it. You know what I'm saying? I think don't even know it.
I think we all are.
Right, I'm like, we don't even know it.
Yeah, I think we can have cordial conversations. Like, if we can't, like you were saying, we can't have cordial conversations with each other, then it's over.